Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, watching the stars through the main screen. The ship moved slowly through space near Neptune's orbit, far from Earth's busy shipping lanes. This was his third patrol this month, and, like the others, nothing had happened. That was how Earth liked it. The year was 2387, and humanity had known about aliens for over 200 years. First contact had been peaceful. The Galactic Federation had welcomed Earth with open arms, offering trade, technology, and friendship. They had also offered something else: membership. In their ongoing war against the Corvani Empire, Earth had said no to everything. The government's position was simple. Earth would remain neutral. They would not join the Federation. They would not fight their wars. They would not even trade with them beyond basic diplomatic contact. Earth would take care of Earth, and the galaxy could take care of itself. Jake had mixed feelings about this policy, but he followed orders. His job was to patrol the outer system and watch for any alien activity. If he found any, he was to observe and report, nothing more. Captain called Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. "I'm picking up something on the long-range sensors." Jake walked over to her station. Amy was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and serious eyes. She had joined the fleet straight from the academy and still believed in helping people, even aliens. "What do you have?" Jake asked. Amy pointed to her screen. "Multiple contacts, moving fast toward our position. They're broadcasting distress signals on Federation frequencies." Jake frowned. Federation ships rarely came this close to Earth's space. The aliens respected Earth's neutrality, but they also kept their distance. "Can you make out what they're saying?" Amy worked at her controls for a moment. Static filled the bridge speakers, then cleared to reveal panicked voices speaking in the common galactic language. "This is Refugee Convoy 77 Alpha, the voice said. "We are carrying civilian survivors from the Keller system. Corvani forces destroyed our homeworld 6 days ago. We need sanctuary. Please, anyone who can hear this. We have children aboard." Jake felt a cold weight in his stomach. The Keller system was over 50 light years away. If refugees were making it this far, the war was getting worse. "How many ships?" he asked. "Sensors show 12 vessels," Amy replied. "They're old cargo ships, not military. Life signs show about 8,000 people total." The bridge crew looked at Jake, waiting for orders. He knew what they were thinking. 8,000 people, including children, running for their lives. It would be easy to escort them to safety, maybe help them find supplies, but that was not their job. "Signal them," Jake said. "They're entering Earth space. Direct them to change course and avoid our system." Amy stared at him. "Sir, they're refugees. They need help." "Our orders are clear, Lieutenant. We observe and report. We don't get involved." Amy's face showed her anger, but she followed orders. She sent the message. The response came back quickly. "Please," the alien voice said. "We understand Earth's neutrality, but we only need fuel and medical supplies. We have injured people aboard. Some of them won't survive without help." His eyes for a moment. He had a daughter back on Earth, about the same age as some of the alien children on those ships. But Earth's policy existed for good reasons. Getting involved in the galactic war would make Earth a target. It would bring death and destruction to humanity's homeworld. "Negative," he said to Amy. "Send them coordinates for the nearest Federation base. Tell them it's 2 days away at maximum speed." "Sir, their ships don't look like they can make 2 days," Amy said. "Engine signatures are weak. That's not our problem." Ernie sent the message with obvious reluctance. The refugee ships began to change course, moving away from Earth space. Jake watched them go and tried to ignore the sick feeling in his stomach. 3 hours later, everything changed. "Captain," shouted Ensign Bobby Clark from the sensor station. "New contacts coming in fast. These are military ships." Jake ran to the sensor display. 12 new ships had appeared on the edge of detection range, moving toward the refugee convoy at high speed. The ships were sleek and dark, with the angular design that meant only one thing: Corvani. They followed the refugees, Amy said quietly. Jake grabbed the ship's intercom.
All hands battle stations.
This is not a drill. Alarms rang throughout. The ship, as the crew prepared for possible combat, Jake knew the Defender was no match for 12 Corvani warships. But maybe he could scare them off, or at least record what happened. Open a channel to the Corvani ships, he ordered. Amy worked at her controls. Channel open, sir. Corvani vessels. This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You are entering neutral space. Please state your intentions. The reply came. In heavily accented English, human ship withdraw immediately. This does not concern your species. We are pursuing enemies of the Corvani Empire. Those are refugee ships carrying civilians. They are Federation sympathizers.
Oh, their fate is decided.
Jake watched his sensors as the Corvani ships closed in on the refugees. Cargo ships were trying to run, but they were too slow and too old. In minutes, the Corvani would catch them. Sir, Amy said urgently, the refugee ships are asking for protection. They're saying they'll accept any terms if we help them. Jake stared at the screen. 8,000 lives hung in the balance. 8,000 people who would die in the next few minutes while he watched and did nothing. His orders were clear. Observe and report. Don't get involved. But as he watched the Corvani ships open fire on the helpless refugees, Jake Morrison learned something about himself and about humanity. Some things mattered more than orders. The first refugee ship exploded in a ball of fire, taking 1,500 lives with it. 3 months had passed since Captain Jake Morrison watched the Corvani ships destroy the refugee convoy. The images still haunted his dreams. 8,000 lives gone in minutes while he followed orders and did nothing. His report had gone up the chain of command and disappeared into the bureaucracy of Earth's government. On Luna Station, Admiral Paul Grant read the morning intelligence reports with growing concern. The war between the Federation and the Corvani Empire was spreading faster than anyone had predicted. In the past month alone, 7 neutral worlds had been attacked and destroyed. The Corvani were no longer just fighting the Federation. They were killing anyone who refused to join their empire. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked in her laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, studying pieces of Corvani technology that had been recovered from old battlefields. As Earth's leading expert on alien biology and technology, she had been trying to understand how the Corvani war machine worked. What she had discovered terrified her. The Corvani didn't just build better weapons than most species. They built weapons that learned. Their ships could analyze enemy tactics during battle and adapt their own strategies in real time. It was like fighting an enemy that got smarter with every shot fired. Lisa picked up a piece of Corvani armor, plating, and examined it under her microscope. The metal was unlike anything humans had developed. It could repair small damage automatically and even change its molecular structure to resist different types of weapons. No wonder the Federation was losing the war, her computer chimed with an incoming message. The file was marked with the highest security classification. Lisa opened it and found a video recording from a Federation spy satellite. The footage showed a Corvani fleet attacking a peaceful colony world called Nexer Prime. The planet had declared neutrality 6 months ago, just like Earth. The Corvani didn't care. They bombarded the planet from orbit until nothing moved on. Surface. Then they landed troops to hunt down any survivors hiding in underground shelters. The entire population of 12 million people was wiped out in less than a day. Lisa felt sick as she watched the recording. She forwarded it immediately to Admiral Grant with a simple message attached. This is what neutrality gets you now. Far from Earth, in the command center of the Corvani flagship Worldbreaker, War Prime Zethkar studied intelligence reports about the Sol system. The massive alien stood over 8 feet tall, with gray skin covered in ritual scars that marked his victories in battle. His red eyes glowed as he examined the data about Earth's defenses. According to Corvani intelligence, Earth had a small defense fleet of maybe 200 ships. Their technology was primitive compared to Federation standards, and far behind Corvani weapons. The humans had nuclear missiles, energy weapons, and basic shields. They had never fought a real space battle against a prepared enemy. Zethkar had conquered 47 worlds in his career. Earth would be number 40-8. But first, he needed to know more about human capabilities. The reports said humans were clever and stubborn, but all inferior species thought they were special. The only way to know for sure was to test them. He turned to his aide, a smaller Corvani officer with green markings on his neck. Send a scouting force to the human system. I want to know how they fight before we commit the main fleet. How many ships, War Prime? 6 should be enough. If the humans are as weak as the reports suggest, 6 ships can destroy their outer defenses and retreat before they can respond effectively. The aide bowed and left to carry out the order. Zethkar returned to studying the star charts. Earth fell. The path to the Federation's core worlds would be wide open. The war would be over within a year. Colonel Ben Parker commanded the defense platform orbiting Jupiter. The massive space station bristled with weapons and sensors. Designed to give early warning of any threats approaching Earth, it was the first line of defense for humanity's homeworld. And Parker took his job seriously. His sensors detected the Corvani ships while they were still 2 days away from Jupiter. 6 vessels, moving in perfect formation at high speed. Parker had never seen Corvani ships in person, but he recognized the design from intelligence briefings. They were scout ships, fast and well-armed, but not the massive dreadnoughts that had destroyed entire Federation fleets. Parker activated the station's battle alert and opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Jupiter Station to Earth Command. We have 6 confirmed Corvani vessels approaching at high speed. Estimated arrival time is 47 hours. The reply came from Admiral Grant himself. Understood, Jupiter Station. Rules of engagement are defensive only. Do not fire unless fired upon. Try to determine their intentions. Parker wanted to argue. Corvani intentions were obvious. They were here to test Earth's defenses before the main attack. But he followed orders and prepared his station for battle. When the Corvani ships arrived, they didn't bother with communication. They simply opened fire on Jupiter Station with energy weapons that lit up the darkness of space. Parker's shields held but barely. The station's return fire scored hits on 2 enemy ships. Proving that human weapons could damage Corvani hulls, the battle lasted only 10 minutes. The Corvani ships tested Jupiter Station's defenses, took some damage, and retreated before Parker could destroy any of them. It was exactly what a scouting mission should be: quick, informative, and survivable. But Parker noticed something important during the fight. The Corvani ships had attacked in a predictable pattern following standard military doctrine. They were disciplined and well-trained, but they weren't creative. Fought like they expected their enemies to be weak and scared. That might be a mistake they would regret. Back on Earth, President Maria Santos called an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. The Jupiter Station battle had changed everything. Earth's neutrality was no longer protecting them. Corvani were coming whether humanity wanted to fight or not. Commander Steve Walsh, head of Earth's intelligence service, presented his analysis to the Council. The attack on Jupiter Station was clearly a probe. They wanted to test our capabilities before committing to a full invasion. Based on Corvani tactics used against other worlds, we estimate they'll return with a much larger force within the next month. President Santos looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. All of them looked like people who had just realized their peaceful world was about to become a battlefield. How many ships are we talking about? She asked. Conservative estimate. 50 capital ships plus support vessels? Maybe 75 ships total? The room fell silent. Earth's entire defense fleet consisted of less than 200 ships, and most of those were patrol vessels like Morrison's Defender. Against a dedicated Corvani battle fleet, Earth's chances looked hopeless. There is one piece of good news, Walsh continued. We've received a communication from the Galactic Federation. They're willing to send military advisors and some equipment to help with our defense. In exchange for what? Santos asked. Full membership in the Federation and a commitment to fight the Corvani alongside their forces. President Santos stared out the window at the peaceful Earth sky. For over 2 centuries, humanity had avoided the galactic war by staying neutral. Now, Neutrality was no longer an option. They could join the Federation and fight, or they could face the Corvani alone. Either way, the war was coming to Earth. War Prime Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship Worldbreaker, watching the blue marble of Earth grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, 50 Corvani warships moved in perfect formation toward humanity's homeworld. The scouting mission had revealed what he expected. Human defenses were weak and outdated. This would be easy. All ships begin the attack, Zethkar commanded. Target their orbital stations first, then their military bases on the surface. Lead the population centers. For last, I want them to watch their defenses fall before they die. The Corvani fleet split into 3 groups. The first group headed for Luna Station, where Admiral Grant coordinated Earth's defense. The second group targeted Mars Colony and the asteroid mining facilities. The third group, led by Zethkar himself, moved toward Earth's orbital defense. Platforms. Admiral Grant watched the approaching enemy fleet from the bridge of the UES Liberty, Earth's newest and most powerful warship. Around him, the remaining ships of Earth's defense fleet prepared for battle. They were outnumbered 3-1, facing an enemy with superior technology and centuries of combat experience. All ships, this is Admiral Grant, he broadcast to the fleet. We knew this day would come. Earth is counting on us. Make every shot count. The first Corvani attack hit Luna Station like a hammer. Energy beams tore through the station's shields and ripped apart its outer sections. Explosions lit up the lunar surface as debris rained down on the moon's research facilities. Grant's tactical officer called out damage reports. Luna Station has lost main power. They're reporting heavy casualties in sectors 7 through 12. On Mars, the story was similar. The Corvani ships overwhelmed the planet's defenses in minutes. The orbital shipyards where Earth built its warships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Thousands of workers died in the first few minutes of the attack. Captain Jake Morrison piloted the UES Defender toward the largest group of Corvani ships. His crew had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. The Defender was an old patrol ship, not a warship, but it was all they had. "Lieutenant Foster, are you ready with the nuclear warheads?" Morrison asked. Amy Foster worked at her weapons console, preparing their most powerful weapons. "Ready, sir. We have 6 nuclear missiles armed and targeted." Morrison knew the missiles probably wouldn't penetrate Corvani shields, but they had to try. Earth's survival depended on every ship doing maximum damage to the enemy fleet. Fire when ready. The missiles streaked toward the Corvani ships, their nuclear warheads creating miniature suns when they exploded against the alien shields. 2. Morrison's surprise, the explosions caused visible damage to 2 enemy ships. Their shields flickered and failed.
Help.
"Their shields can't handle multiple nuclear hits," Amy reported excitedly. "We found a weakness," Morrison immediately broadcast. This information to the rest of the fleet? Within minutes, every Earth ship was targeting the same enemy vessels with concentrated nuclear fire. The tactic worked. 3 Corvani ships exploded under the sustained assault, but the victory was short-lived. The Corvani adapted quickly to the human tactic. They began spreading their ships out, making it impossible for Earth's forces to concentrate fire on single targets. On Earth's surface, Major Kate Robinson watched the battle in orbit from her command post in Colorado. As head of planetary defense, her job was to coordinate the resistance when the Corvani landed ground troops. She didn't have to wait long. Corvani landing ships began dropping through Earth's atmosphere like deadly rain. The first landings came in North America and Asia, where Earth's major military bases were located. The alien soldiers were 8 feet tall, heavily armored, and armed with energy weapons that could cut through tank armor. Lieutenant Colonel Rick Turner led the defense of Denver when the first Corvani troops landed in the city. His battalion of Marines faced an enemy that was bigger, stronger, and better equipped than any human soldier. But Turner had something the Corvani didn't expect: desperation and anger. "These aliens think they can just walk into our cities and take our world," he told his men. "Can't show them what humans do to uninvited guests." The Marines used every dirty trick they knew. They fought from building to building, using the urban environment to their advantage. They set traps, used improvised explosives, attacked from directions the Corvani didn't expect. The aliens were confused by human tactics. They were used to fighting Federation forces, who used standard military doctrine. Humans fought like cornered animals, using whatever weapons they could find and refusing to surrender, even when facing certain death in her underground bunker. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked frantically with the Federation ambassador, who had arrived just days before the attack. Ambassador Kelthor was a tall, blue-skinned humanoid who had been fighting the Corvani for over 20 years. "The virus is almost ready," Lisa told him. "If we can get it into their computer systems, it should disrupt their ship coordination."
How?
"Do we deliver it?" Kelthor asked. Lisa looked at the datapad showing the battle overhead. "We need someone to get close to their command ship, close enough to upload the virus directly." They both knew it was a suicide mission. The Corvani command ship was protected by dozens of smaller vessels. Any human ship that got close enough to upload the virus would be destroyed instantly. Back in orbit, the battle was going badly for Earth's forces. Admiral Grant watched as ship after ship fell to Corvani weapons. The Liberty itself had taken heavy damage, and half the crew was dead or wounded. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the Corvani commander. He's demanding our surrender." Grant looked around the bridge at his surviving crew. Young men and women who had joined Earth's Defense Force. To protect their homeworld, they looked back at him with determination, not fear. "Open the channel," Grant ordered. Warprime Zethkar's face appeared on the main screen. The alien commander looked confident and relaxed, as if he was already planning his victory celebration. Human Admiral Zethkar said, "Your fleet is broken. Your orbital defenses are destroyed. Surrender now, and I will make your species' death quick." Grant stood up straighter. "I have a message for you, Zethkar. Earth doesn't surrender. We don't give up. We sure as hell don't roll over for alien bullies who think they can threaten our families." "Then you will die with honor," Zethkar replied. "I respect that, even if it is pointless." The transmission ended, and Grant turned to his crew. "All ships, this is Admiral Grant. We're not going to win this battle, but we're going to make sure they remember it. Every ship ram the nearest Corvani vessel. Make them pay for every mile of Earth space." Captain Morrison heard the order and looked at his crew. They all nodded. They had all made their choice. "Amy, plot a course for the Corvani command ship. Full speed." The Defender turned toward Zethkar's flagship, its engines glowing white-hot as Morrison pushed them beyond their limits. Around them, other Earth ships began their own suicide runs, crashing into Corvani vessels in explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Morrison's ship struck the Worldbreaker's shields and exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. The explosion was so powerful it overloaded the flagship's defensive systems and left it badly damaged. For the first time in his career, Warprime Zethkar felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These humans were insane. They would rather die than surrender. How could anyone defeat an enemy who refused to lose? 6 weeks after the first Corvani attack, Earth was a different world. The initial invasion had killed millions and destroyed most of humanity's orbital defenses. But instead of surrendering, the survivors had done something that shocked both the Corvani and their Federation allies. They had gotten angry. General Susan Clark stood in the ruins of what used to be the Pentagon, now serving as the mobile command center for Earth's military forces. The building had been hit by Corvani orbital bombardment, but the underground levels still functioned. From here, she coordinated a resistance that was growing stronger every day. Clark was a tough woman in her 50s, who had spent 30 years in the military. She had never expected to fight aliens, but she approached the problem like any other military challenge. Find the enemy's weakness and exploit it. "Report," she said to her intelligence officer, Commander Steve Walsh. "The Corvani are having supply problems," Walsh replied. "Our attacks on their transport ships are forcing them to bring in reinforcements from other systems. They're pulling ships away from the Federation front to deal with us." Clark smiled. "Grimly good? What else?" "The Federation has been sending us equipment and advisors through the asteroid belt. They're impressed by our tactics and want to learn from us. This was the strangest part of the whole war. The Federation had been fighting the Corvani for decades and losing, but humans, who had been in the war for only 6 weeks, were all ready. Teaching the aliens new ways to fight, engineer Tony Mitchell worked in an underground facility outside Las Vegas, converting civilian spacecraft into warships. Before the invasion, Tony had designed mining ships and cargo haulers. Now he was turning them into weapons of war. The key is speed and surprise, he explained to his team of engineers and mechanics. These ships don't need to survive long fights. They just need to hit hard and get away before the Corvani can respond. His latest creation was a modified cargo ship called the Ghost Runner. It looked like an ordinary freight hauler from the outside, but hidden inside were enough nuclear missiles to destroy a Corvani cruiser. The ship could approach enemy vessels pretending to be civilian traffic, then attack at close range. Tony had built 12 of these ghost ships in the past month. Each one was crewed by volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't survive their first mission. But there was never a shortage of volunteers. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat in the pilot's seat of one of Tony's ghost ships, the Phantom Strike. After Captain Morrison's death, she had requested transfer to the most dangerous assignment available. She wanted to make the Corvani pay for killing her captain and friend. Her mission was simple: approach the Corvani supply depot near Jupiter, pretend to be a damaged refugee ship, and destroy as many enemy vessels as possible before they killed her. "This is Phantom Strike to Ghost Command," she radioed back to Earth, beginning approach to target area.
Acknowledged.
"Phantom Strike, good hunting." Amy guided her ship toward the Corvani base, broadcasting false distress signals. Her ship's computer had been programmed with Federation refugee codes, making her appear to be another desperate civilian fleeing the war zone. The Corvani fell for the deception. They allowed her ship to approach their supply depot without firing. Amy counted 15 enemy ships clustered around the space station, including 2 heavy cruisers and a command vessel. When she was close enough to guarantee maximum damage, Amy armed her nuclear missiles and sent a final message to Earth. "Ghost Command, this is Amy Foster. Tell my family I'm sorry I couldn't come home. Tell them the aliens are going to pay for what they did to us." She fired every missile at once, then rammed her ship into the command vessel.
Ow.
The explosions destroyed half the Corvani supply fleet and left the survivors scrambling to reorganize their operations. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Hayes had finally perfected her computer virus with help from Ambassador Kelther. The program was designed to spread through Corvani computer networks and disrupt their ship coordination systems. "The virus is ready," she told General Clark. "But we need to get it into their main fleet's computer network." It means someone has to get very close to their flagship. Clark studied the tactical display showing Corvani ship positions. Warprime Zethkar had moved his flagship to a position behind the main fleet, protected by layers of smaller ships. Getting close enough to upload the virus would require a miracle. "I'll do it," said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Colonel Ben Parker, the commander who had survived the Jupiter Station battle. His left arm was in a sling from wounds he had received fighting Corvani ground troops, but his eyes were determined. "Ben, that's suicide," Clark said. "So was Jupiter Station, so was Denver, so was every fight we've had with these aliens. But we keep fighting because that's what humans do." Parker took a modified fighter ship loaded with the virus program and headed for the Corvani fleet. His plan was to use the confusion from other ghost ship attacks to slip through their defenses and get close to the flagship. The mission almost worked. Parker's fighter made it through 2 layers of enemy ships before the Corvani detected him. Energy beams filled the space around his ship as he dodged and weaved toward his target. He was hit 3 times but kept flying. With his ship falling apart around him, Parker crashed into the flagship's communications array and loaded the virus directly into their computer network. The effect was immediate. Corvani ships across the solar system began losing coordination with each other. Their formation flying became sloppy. Their targeting systems started making errors. Ships that had worked together perfectly for years suddenly couldn't communicate properly. Major Kate Robinson led the ground assault on the Corvani base in the Rocky Mountains. With enemy ships confused by the virus, this was the perfect time to retake territory the aliens had captured. Her forces included regular army units, National Guard troops, and civilian volunteers. They were armed with a mixture of human weapons and captured Corvain equipment. Robinson had learned that alien energy weapons worked just fine in human hands. The attack caught the Corvaini by surprise. They had grown comfortable in their captured territory, not expecting humans to launch a major counterattack so soon after the initial invasion. Robinson's troops used tactics the aliens had never seen before. They attacked at night when the Corvani couldn't see as well. They used local knowledge of the terrain to set ambushes, even recruited local wildlife using trained dogs to sniff out alien positions. The Corvani commander in the area, Subprime Korthvel, found himself fighting an enemy he didn't understand. Federation forces followed predictable patterns. They had standard procedures for every situation. Humans seemed to make up new tactics on the spot. "How do we fight an enemy that doesn't follow any rules?" he asked his aide. The aide had no answer. Corvani military doctrine assumed that all enemies would fight logically and follow established patterns. Humans appeared to be completely insane. Warprime Zethkar studied the reports from across the solar system with growing concern. The virus had been contained, but not before causing significant damage to his fleet's coordination. Worse, human resistance was actually getting stronger instead of weaker in every other conquest. Enemy morale had collapsed after the initial attack. Populations had surrendered when they realized the hopelessness of their situation. But humans seemed to fight harder when things looked impossible. His intelligence officers reported that human recruitment was actually increasing. Instead of discouraging resistance, Corvani victories were creating more human fighters. Every destroyed city produced more volunteers for the ghost ships. Every successful ground attack motivated more civilians to take up weapons. Warprime, his aide reported, "We're receiving requests for reinforcements from 7 different sector commanders. They say human tactics are unlike anything in our military databases." Zethkar looked at the tactical display showing the positions of his fleet. 3 months ago, he had been confident of easy victory. Now he was starting to wonder if conquering Earth was even possible. These humans were teaching him something he had never learned in his centuries of warfare. So sometimes the weaker force could win. They were willing to pay any price for victory, and humans seemed willing to pay any price at all. Federation. Admiral Veltar watched the battle from his command ship at the edge of the solar system. He had come to offer assistance to Earth's defense, but what he was seeing amazed him. In 3 months, humans had gone from helpless victims to effective fighters. They were inflicting more damage on the Corvani fleet than Federation forces had. "Managed in years of warfare. Send a message to Federation Command," he told his communications officer. "Tell them we need to learn human tactics. Whatever they're doing, it's working better than anything we've tried." The message that went back to Federation headquarters was simple but revolutionary. For the first time in the war, someone had found a way to make the Corvani afraid. 6 months after the first Corvani attack, Earth had become something no one expected. The peaceful planet that had avoided galactic war for centuries was now the most dangerous place in the solar system for Corvani forces. Admiral Paul Grant stood on the bridge of the newly built Use Vengeance, watching his combined human and Federation fleet prepare for the largest counterattack in Earth's history. The ship around him was a marvel of engineering, built using human design concepts and Federation technology. "All ships report ready for Operation Homecoming," his tactical officer announced. Grant looked at the display showing over 300 ships. Half were human vessels, many of them converted civilian craft armed with whatever weapons they could carry. The other half were Federation warships that had arrived to help Earth's defense. But the Federation ships were different now. They had been modified with human tactical improvements. Their captains had studied human fighting methods and learned to think like humans in battle. "Begin the attack," Grant ordered. Captain Danny Lewis led the first wave of fighters toward the Corvani positions near Mars. Lewis had been Orson's second in command on the Defender, and had survived the initial invasion by pure luck. Now he commanded a squadron of modified fighters that used completely unpredictable flight patterns. "Remember," he told his pilots over the radio, "don't fly like machines. Fly like crazy humans." Make them guess what you're going to do next. The fighters attacked the Corvani formation like angry wasps, darting in and out of the enemy fleet in patterns that made no tactical sense. The Corvani gunners couldn't track them effectively because human pilots didn't follow logical flight paths. Lewis's fighter dodged 3 energy beams and fired its missiles at point-blank range into a Corvani cruiser. The explosion took out the enemy ship's engines and left it drifting helplessly. "That's 1 down," Lewis reported. 37 to go. On the surface of Mars, Colonel Ben Parker led a combined force of human Marines and Federation soldiers against the main Corvani ground base. Parker had survived his suicide mission against the flagship by ejecting from his fighter at the last second. The Corvani had captured him, but human forces had rescued him during a prisoner exchange. Now he was back in action, leading troops who fought with a combination of human tactics and alien technology. The Marines carried Federation energy weapons, but used them in ways the aliens had never imagined. "We're going to hit them from 6 directions at once," Parker explained to his officers. "They'll expect us to attack from the most logical angle, so we'll attack from every angle except that one." The assault began with human engineers using stolen Corvani equipment to dig tunnels under the enemy base. While the aliens watched for attacks from above ground, the Marines emerged from beneath their feet. The Corvani defenders were completely confused. Their military training had prepared them for standard ground warfare, not for enemies who popped up from underground, while other forces attacked from the air and the flanks simultaneously. Dr. Lisa Hayes watched the battle from her laboratory, but her attention was focused on something more important: working with Federation scientists. She had developed new shield technology based on human understanding of quantum physics. The breakthrough had come when she realized that Corvani shields worked by deflecting energy in predictable patterns. Human shields worked differently. They absorbed energy and redirected it randomly, making it impossible for enemy weapons to adapt to them. "The new shields are working perfectly," she reported to General Clark. "Corvani weapons are only operating at 60% effectiveness against ships equipped with our technology." Clark smiled as she watched the battle reports. For the first time since the war began, human ships were surviving longer than enemy vessels. The combination of human tactics and improved technology was proving deadly to Corvani forces. War Prime. Zethkar felt his confidence crumbling as he watched his fleet fall apart under the human assault. In 6 months of fighting, he had lost more ships than in the previous 10 years of war against the Federation. His tactical computer kept predicting human movements, and the humans kept doing something completely different. His weapon systems were designed to counter known Federation technology, but human shields were based on entirely different principles. Worst of all, his own commanders were starting to panic. Corvani officers were trained to fight disciplined. Enemies who followed military doctrine had no idea how to respond to humans who seemed to make up new tactics during battle. "War Prime," his aide reported, "Subprime Korthvel is requesting permission to retreat from the Mars surface. He says human forces are attacking from directions that shouldn't be possible." Zethkar wanted to deny the request, but he was starting to understand something terrifying. The humans weren't just winning individual battles. They were teaching the Federation how to fight more effectively. Intelligence reports showed that Federation forces throughout the galaxy were adopting human tactics. The war that had been going the Corvani's way for decades was suddenly turning against them. General Cluck led the final assault on the Corvani command ship personally. She'd convinced Admiral Grant to let her take a boarding party directly onto Zethkar's flagship. It was dangerous, but it would end the invasion if they could capture or kill the Corvani commander. "Remember, we're not trying to be heroes," she told her Marines as their boarding craft approached the enemy ship. "We're trying to end this war. Hit hard, move fast, and don't give them time to think." The boarding craft cut through the flagship's hull using Federation cutting tools. Clark's Marines poured into the ship's corridors, fighting their way toward the bridge with a combination of human aggression and alien weapons. The Corvani crew fought back desperately, but they were unprepared for close-quarters combat against Humans, Earth's Marines, had trained for urban warfare and ship-to-ship fighting. They moved through the narrow corridors like they had been born there. Clark herself reached the bridge first, breaking down the armored door with explosive charges. She found Warprim Zethkar waiting for her with his personal guard. The alien commander was massive, over 8 feet tall and covered in battle scars. He carried an energy sword that could cut through tank armor. But Clark had something he didn't. She fought dirty. While Zethkar expected a formal duel, Clark threw a grenade at his feet and dove for cover. The explosion knocked the Corvani commander down, and Clark put 3 shots from her energy rifle into his chest before he could get up. "This is General Clark to all human forces," she broadcast as Zethkar died. "The Corvani commander is dead. Their flagship is ours." The effect on the Corvani fleet was immediate, without their warprime to coordinate their movements. The alien ships began retreating toward the edge of the solar system. Some tried to surrender, others just ran. But Clark had paid a price for victory. The grenade explosion had badly injured her, and she was losing blood fast. As her Marines tried to treat her wounds, she smiled weakly. "Did we win?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. The Corvani are retreating. Earth is safe." Clark closed her eyes and let herself rest for the first time in months. The invasion was over, but she knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had learned how to fight, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Grant received the surrender of the remaining Corvani forces 3 hours later. Nearly 2/3 of the invasion fleet had been destroyed or captured. The survivors were allowed to leave the solar system with a message for their empire. Earth was no longer neutral. Humanity had chosen a side in the Galactic War, and they were very good at fighting. Federation Admiral Veltar sent a message to his government that changed everything. "Request immediate authorization to offer full membership to Earth," he transmitted. "These humans are the most effective fighting force we have ever encountered. With their help, we can win this war." On Earth's surface, President Santos addressed the planet from the rebuilt White House. 6 months ago, we were a peaceful people who wanted nothing to do with galactic war. Today, we are the galaxy's newest military power. We didn't choose this fight, but we're going to finish it. The transformation was complete. Earth had gone from victim to victor in less than a year. But more importantly, humanity had discovered something about itself that would reshape the entire galaxy. When pushed to the edge of extinction, humans didn't break. They got stronger.